recorded?
This meeting is being recorded.
All right, it is now recorded. You can go ahead and call the meeting.
Okay, we are here today on the City of Evanston City Police Review Commission. It seems as though we have a quorum, so I like to call this meeting to order. Do I need to motion that? Do I need a motion to call to order?
No,
Okay.
you do not need to motion to call the order. You have declaration of a quorum has been established. And I will just make that known that we have on the call Jamal, Shauna, Nico, Janitha, and Nika. All right.
All right, sounds good. So moving to the agenda, first thing we have on 2A is the approval of August 5th, 2020 meetings, our last meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the August 5th, 2020 minutes.
Second.
All right, so we can vote. All that agree, say yay.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Having here no opposition, we'll move to approve the August 5th, 2020 meetings.
Great.
All right,
So sorry. You're good.
Okay, so at this time we have public comment. I know that we have at least one person on the call, so we will start with our public comments.
So we have Karen Courtright. Karen, if you can go ahead and just state your name again for the record.
Hi, I'm Karen Courtright. And I'm sorry that you're not all present, but I guess I will type these up and hopefully find emails for those of you who are not there. So I was part of the committee that made the Citizen Complaint Assessment Committee that made recommendations for how to reconstitute a citizen review commission for the City of Evanston Police Complaint Commission. And there were, I don't know if you all were given our reports. I can certainly send them along, or Kimberly, of course, has them as well. But there were a fair number of things that were discussed and recommended that were not included in the ordinance that formed your group. And there were some important things that I just want you all to be aware of, so that you're aware of the things that we thought were important weaknesses in the prior situation. So one was, and this wasn't even discussed during the time that the ordinance was being drafted, but last week, I think both Kimberly and Sergeant Wernick discussed that a citizen who makes a complaint is notified that their complaint is going to be reviewed at the HSC. We had thought it was really important that citizens know when their complaint was coming to you all, because once you have reviewed it and affirmed or made other recommendations back to EPD, it's kind of too late for them to bring some of their story forward if it varies from what is indeed in the report that you all see from EPD. There was an example of a gentleman who did go to HSC, and he had a much different story to tell about having the EPD said that he didn't cooperate with the investigation, and he said he wasn't contacted by the police when they were doing the investigation. So you could see how that would definitely make for a different kind of investigatory outcome. Another thing that I noticed wasn't discussed last week was the fact that when you go to executive session to view body cams or dash cams and so on, that is appropriately done, according to our city at least, in executive session. Other cities do not read open meeting laws that way. and that the Open Meetings Act should be read according to some lawyers who I've talked to this about, but of course you can get your own advice, that you can't really discuss what you're seeing on screen amongst each other in executive session. Rather, that needs to take place in the public session because you're acting on behalf of the public in your role as commissioners. And finally, several times actually, when the former committee, CPAC, was reviewing complaints, the introduction in the report coming from EPD identified rules that if the accused officer was found to have violated, which rule they would be violating. Sometimes the complainant would say in their narrative that they felt like they were being racially profiled, and yet Rule 74 was not invoked or addressed in the investigation. So I'd encourage you to keep an eye out for that. And that's all I have. Thank you so much for your service, and thanks for listening to me tonight.
Thank you, Karen, for your comment tonight. Do we have?
So, I'm sorry, I just want to acknowledge Rick has joined the meeting.
Okay, I think I saw Doug as well.
Doug, is that
ADD.
you? ADD is Doug. Okay, thank you.
No problem. Do we have any other public comments at this time?
No, we do not, Chair.
Okay. Having comments at this time, we're going to continue down on the agenda, and we are going to start with our new business. As part of our new business, we have 3 complaints that we have before us for review. And so we can go ahead and start discussion on review of the Department Inquiry 20-01. If anyone want to start there.
Can we have a motion to discuss?
Sorry. Can we have, I want to put out a motion. Can we have someone move to, for a motion to discuss the department inquiries?
So you made the
20
motion. I second the motion if you made the motion.
Can we have someone make a motion?
Motion to discuss complaint D1 number 2001.
All right, so that was motion by Shauna, and then we have a second by Rick, I believe.
Yes.
Okay. Having, can we all vote on the
Real
discussion
quick,
of
too. Can I just say, just for the record, it's DI, Departmental Inquiry 2001.
Got it.
Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah,
that.
sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Having second, can we vote on discussion for DI number 20-01? If we can have yays for everyone that agrees.
Yay.
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 You know, yay here as well. Yep.
Okay. Do we have anyone opposed? Say nay. Having here no opposition, the motion is made and entered to discuss DI number 20-01 complaint.
Okay, so do you want Sergeant Warnick to walk through the summary of the complaint, or how would you prefer to move forward with the discussion?
Yes, if we can have Sergeant Warnick just kind of give us a synopsis of the complaint, and then we can hold discussion thereafter.
And I also want to make note that we do have exec session on this agenda. So if you all want to go into exec session at any time to view the video or any additional material, related to this case or any other, we can hold it until exec session so that we can review everything at once versus coming in and out of the meeting for continuity purpose.
Okay.
All right. Good evening, everybody. So this complaint is from New Year's Day, and it happened, looks like the 31st early morning. So officers were called for a noise complaint, and then there was also complaint that between the two neighbors that there was noise, and then there was cigarette smoke and marijuana smoke that was seeping into the complainant's house. It turns out that the complainant and the neighbor that she initially called on also called. So there were two 911 calls going on. If you watch the video, you'll see that. So when the officer went over there, it was 3 officers total. So the initial accused officer, and then responding officer 2 and responding officer 3. The accused officer had a conversation with the complainant, basically advised her of the situation, that it was a civil matter. They went back and forth. At some point, he ended up telling her that she could be arrested if she keeps calling the police. And essentially, the call was dispoed, what we call dispo. There was a disposition given without a report. So it was coded in the car on the computer. So when this complaint was, the complainant called, she essentially advised what had happened. The video was reviewed. As you guys have seen from the memorandum, investigation was completed, and it was sent down to the patrol sergeant, who got a memorandum from the officer as far as his actions. After reviewing that, so going back to the OPS sergeant in charge of the investigation, and I think I explained this to you guys before. When we're reviewing these and doing our investigation, we basically listen to what the complainant says, and we decide the rule violations. Now, that's just based on our experience and based on our opinion. If there's something that another supervisor along the line sees, they can add it, or they can refute whatever rule we put down. But rule 1 and 2 are technically like catch-alls. You'll see those most of the time. So rules 1 and 2 were seen or listed with this, as well as rule 6, rule 18. Well, rule 6 is incompetency or inefficiency in performing a task. And then rule 18 is a disrespectful behavior. And then rule 20 is not providing the prompt and courteous service. So once the officer ends up giving a memo, the patrol sergeant reviews the information from officer and OPS, and they make a recommendation. In this, they exonerated all the rule violations. Now that goes up to the patrol commander. In this case, the patrol commander concurred and agreed there was no further action needed. So they were exonerated. The officer was exonerated. And then this went to the deputy chief, who also agreed with the initial sergeant recommendation that all the rule violations be exonerated. And then from there, it goes to you all for review before it goes back to Chief Cook. So I don't know if there's any questions I can answer with that.
So the first, the question I have is the first, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you got it.
Okay.
All right.
So the first person or the first entity that makes findings and recommendation is the patrol sergeant. Is that correct? Not OPS?
So OPS does not make recommendations. So in order for us to be impartial investigators, we essentially do the investigation. And you'll see as you read the OPS memorandum, we list just the facts. There's no opinion. You'll see that from like the patrol sergeant. So we'll never say, that's why we choose what we think are the proper rule violations, and it's up to the sergeant or commander to decide if those rule violations were indeed met. So OPS will never give any sort of disciplinary recommendation.
The recommendations are just solely on what you determine, your judgment of what rules might have been, I guess, broken, if you will.
Yes. So so when we watch it and we do the whole investigation, we talk to the complainant. We'll then look at the rules. We'll look at our policy. As you'll see in some of the ones coming up, there'll be policy violations, not just rule violations, standard operating procedure violations that we felt fitted. Now, just because we feel that this could possibly be a violation, the sergeant, commander, deputy chief end up they review everything, and they're doing an investigation as well. So they have the determination as far as how the discipline gets handed out, or if there was actually a rule violation.
Okay.
From the rules that you all feel like best accurately fit might possibly fit any sort of violations according to the incident, do you just like here we have 5? Do you go back to see if there are any other rules that may possibly fit, or is that just based on like you've already kind of reviewed it, and then now those are the rules that may best fit this situation?
Yeah, so initially we go through, so we have all the rules, we have the policy, just based on everything initially is when OPS will give what we think are the rule or policy violations. So we don't go back and say, we think now after this, it should be, rule whatever. That's up to the sergeant, commander, or deputy chief to add a rule if they see fit to do so. And as you can see through this, I mean, this is a lot of rules, as you'll see. I don't know if you've seen past, I mean, sometimes there's one rule violation, sometimes there's multiple rule violations and policy violations. And again, this is, OPS is coming into this as just a third-party investigator. We're trying to be as fair and impartial as possible to the complainant and the officer. So we're listing the rule violations, and when it says at the top, if the allegations are true, the accused officer may have violated the following. And it says that in the memorandum too. If you guys read through that, you'll see that in there. So all OPS can do is review it, and what either myself or Sergeant Faison believe are the rule violations, we add them.
Aaron, I have a question, not on
Sure.
the substance of the DI, but it looks like there are 2 mistakes in dates in there that may need to be corrected just for clarity.
Tell me why.
In the very beginning, the incident for OPS, it says on December 31st, 2020. I believe that should be 2019. If it was New Year's Eve of last year. So the very on page 1 of the DI.
Are you talking the actual DI?
Yeah, the DI that was included in the agenda that we received.
Let me see that.
Top of the page.
Yep, I'm just pulling it up. Which?
So the portion that says after the last rule, after Rule 20, the next section that starts.
Are you talking the OPS memorandum?
Yeah, the incident per OPS sergeant. It says on December 31st, 2020.
Okay.
And that should be 2019.
Hang on one sec. So again, are we talking the actual memorandum or are we talking the, oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so that's just a typo on that. I'll make a note of that. That should read December 31st, 2019. Again, I apologize if there's typos. If you guys catch them and you need clarification, please let us know. All three of us proofread this. There's, as you can probably guess, a lot of complaints coming in right now with the way things are. So we're overworked. So if we do miss something, please ask and let us know, and we'll do our best to make sure we're not.
That was caught by a patent attorney.
Well, I appreciate, and I'm sure there's probably some other mistakes. So we do our best to be mistake free, but we're human too. So definitely point them out. And
totally understand the typos will happen. I just want to make sure that
yes,
before
you're
it goes
absolutely right.
up to the next level. That
yes, and then I just want to point out the initiated January 7th and the completed. You see that at the top. So those dates are just for the investigative purposes. And then the April 10th is when it should have gone to HSC, but it just never did because HSC didn't meet, and then you guys were formed and it never got in front of HSC. So now it's in front of you. So you'll see the dates are just different at the top based on the actual investigation.
Okay. Got it.
So it's clear as mud.
Aaron, is this document public?
This one is, this summary is published. I believe Kimberly published it on the meeting agenda.
Correct.
I just wanted to also, I know that the person who is doing your redacting is new to this, but on page 18, the daughter of the complainant, her name isn't redacted, and it's
okay.
unusual.
So that they do not get.
Okay.
So
Doesn't get redacted?
What's that?
That does not get redacted?
They do not get the memorandum. You guys only get the memorandum.
Okay.
They only get the summary. So if there's something we missed, I mean, I read through this document probably 4 or 5 times. And I know that Jeff also read through it, and our admin read through it too. So if we do miss something, let us know. But you guys are the only ones who see the report, the memorandum. All the public sees is this summary. I think it's a 2 or 3 page summary for each case. That's it.
All right. My only concern was that with that daughter's name, I know who it is. Just with a child in the high school, it's an unusual name, and I didn't want the public to know.
Right. No, I appreciate that. And that's why too, on the summary, there's just no names, and that's why it's retyped, just so we don't make any, there's absolutely no possibility of that going out.
Right.
And can I just add, if you do see something to that effect in the future, even though it is private, even though it is only for you all to view, please let Aaron know, because he can always make sure that he corrects it, so that moving forward, other people don't have to, don't see that information, because not everyone's reading it at the same time. So please let Aaron know if you find errors, because it's important to be as accurate as possible.
Are there any other questions or discussion on DI number 20-01? Would anyone like to review the video of this department inquiry?
Necessary for me.
Sorry, say that again.
I said not necessary for me. I don't know who else.
Okay.
I'm with Rick. This is good.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay.
So with that being said, as new to this committee, I think we discussed it the last meeting, we need to figure out a form. So somehow we have to be able to put a report to to Human Services Committee, HSC, summarizing decisions. So at some point there needs to be, I apologize because I'm trying not to repeat past practices. However, there needs to be some type of action from this commission to say this needs to move forward to HSC, and not so much endorsing the action, but endorsing the process, like saying it was thoroughly reviewed, or that that the investigation per your review looks thorough and completed. You're not responding or motioning on the findings. So I just want to be clear that that's what's changed. It's not, you all are not here to affirm the findings. You're here to affirm the process and making sure that it was thoroughly reviewed and things were done in an accurate process.
Question. Let's just say we determine that it's not satisfactory. Does that change the findings?
So it will go back to OPS with your concerns that needs to be addressed, and then they will have to come back to you all to respond to how they were able to address those concerns before they go to HSC. So,
And who presents the human services?
So typically it has been presented by OPS as a report, a complete report to Human Services Committee, and that would be their staff would do that. But if you as the commission wants to have a representative to speak on behalf of the group, that can be done as well. And I think that's the reason why the document or report, however you want to call it, that's a supplement to this, was created so that you weren't having to be obligated to attend every meeting at HSC to report back. But it's your words. It is not the words of OPS or the chief. It's you as a commission speaking on your review of this. So as you see this summary, what will happen is that there can be an extra line that could be added to this summary report that is your review process. So that's something to contemplate. This is something that we were really, I would say, I would speak for myself, I was really strong about us not having you all have to follow a process that we prescribe, but something that you all agreed to or you all have discussed and said this is how we want to proceed. But I just want to give you some framing around that conversation.
Okay. For me, just looking at this report, the only thing that I would like, and I don't speak for anyone else, is that OPS, they lay down rules that may possibly fit with the complaint before actually reviewing the complaint. And after they review the complaint, there's no one going back to say, okay, well,
No.
actually this rule, am I inaccurate in that?
Yes. So the investigation is we talk to the complainant, we look at the video. If we're sending down a possible rule violation, that means we've done the investigation. Now, if you look at the memorandum, I think it, like on this case, was very thoroughly done. That's for you all to decide if OPS did a thorough investigation or not, and then if the sergeant, commander, and deputy chief did. So we're not just blindly pulling rule violations. I mean, we're talking to the complainant. We haven't talked to the officer. These are rule violations based on what the complainant is telling us. Now, if it's like a CR, a complaint register, which I think we'll have for the next meeting, you'll see before it's sent down that we've actually interviewed the accused officer. So we're talking to them prior to making the rule violations.
Okay, so I understand. So you talk to the complainant before actually pulling out the rules that you may deem fit the situation.
Correct. We watch the body cam. We speak to the complainant. We don't speak to the officer. That's up to the sergeant down in patrol to do. And that's why I say they can add rule violations if they talk to the officer and they find something else that comes up. But, you know, typically watching the body cam, looking at the reports or the codes, and speaking with the complainant, you get a pretty good picture of what happened. And I think seeing the body cams end up showing you a lot of the scene and how people were talked to and if their complaint is viable or not.
All right. Having heard that and having that clarified for me, I don't see any real problem with the process here. What about anyone else? What are your thoughts on the process?
I agree. It looks like this was a thorough investigation and went through a number of different levels and looks like they followed the proper procedures and did a proper investigation of the complaint.
I second that.
And I agree as well. I don't have a problem with the process. So I thought it was very thorough.
Okay. So Kimberly, should we move to have this move on to HSC?
Yes. So
Okay.
so that would be your recommendation. Your recommendation is to move it to HSC for their review. And what we will do is work with you, Janitha, on trying to craft what additional language needs to be added to the summary that will reflect this commission's review.
All right. But do we need to motion for a recommendation to move it
Yes.
to HSC? Okay. So having had discussion on BI number 2001, and can I have a motion to recommend moving this over to HSC?
Yeah, I move that we move. I make a motion that we move DI 2001 to HSC for further review.
I second the motion.
Can I have? All right. Can we have a vote of all that agree? Say aye.
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 Aye. Anyone in disagreement, say nay. Having no disagreements, this would be recommended to move forward to HSC for further review.
And now the complainant will be notified that this will be going on the HSC has been meeting frequently to have special meetings, but it will go on to their regular scheduled meeting in October.
Now, Kimberly, with the first one, is that going to be enough time for the committee to put together? I just want to make sure we do. If you guys want to decide now, if you think, I don't have it in front of me, but is that I think October 7th maybe might be
Correct. It's the first Monday of the month.
So I don't know if that's enough time for you, a month with the first three to get something for HSC.
Well, Janitha, do you just want you and I to have a meeting, to schedule a meeting for you and I to discuss to see how you would prefer to incorporate the commission's comments?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know, I feel like if this is going to be on behalf of the commission, though, I guess we can discuss that of whether or not the commission approve of the form that we'll be using in order to send over our recommendations.
Correct. I think it should probably be attached to the conversation, Doug, you and I probably need to have sooner rather than later. Yeah. So yeah. I will make sure that happens so that we can have that discussion. And if so, we can, we can hold off and have the form approved, and then that can just go all together packaged to the subsequent meeting in November if need be, or whenever they meet again.
I think that would be best.
Okay, that's fine. So I am on the record. I have to schedule a meeting with you and Doug. Sorry about that.
Not a problem.
Okay.
Not a problem.
All right, so this is going to be moving to HSC, but we are not going to move it to October until a form has been developed and approved by the commission for how they'll be submitting their comments to Human Services. Is that correct?
That's
Okay.
correct.
Thank you.
And Janitha, oh, sorry, Rick, go ahead.
Just a question now. So the complainant doesn't receive any kind of final understanding of if it's been approved or not until it goes all the way through Human Services, correct?
Well, we will tell them. So in the past, when it's gone from CPAC, we have told them, because it's already been decided what the outcome is. So at this point, when we receive the report from you, we'll be able to say, this is going to, like, I'll have to redo the form. And we do send the form by certified mail. So if we can have enough time for that to take place, I would request at least 10 days, maybe 2 weeks that I can get, because I have to send it out certified and get it back. So we know that they were notified. And typically I call. Some complainants don't want to be talked to on the telephone once they make the complaint. So, you know, if I can email, I do everything to reach out, but we do like to send the certified mail to just notify them as well. But there's going to have to be a different form. So there's not going to be a final. So we'll also do a final report to them as far as, so we'll essentially have to send it out twice now, because we'll send it out for HSC and then we'll have to send out the final disposition letter, which typically that was an all-in-one form when we had CPAC, because it was a meeting right now would decide everything. The chief would have already made his decision. So that's kind of shifting. So we'll probably have to send it out twice now, looking at it.
And I just want to be, Rick, you're muted yourself.
No, I'm just saying, it just seems now, so we've added another layer.
We have.
Okay, all right.
I just want to be clear that the chief has agreed to not take any action until it's gone to HSC. Is that correct, Aaron?
Yes. So from this point, we will receive back your findings, and then we'll go to HSC with it. And I'll confirm with the chief, because I got to read the ordinance over, however the ordinance reads is how we'll do it.
Right. And so, and again, I know like there's probably some room for that ordinance to be massaged a little bit more, but we have been given pretty much, the chief has said that he will take your guidance and, you know, how you all receive this, and we will adjust. That makes sense to ensure that this process is fair as well as thorough. And so he is willing to, now I can't speak for the ones that have been a year old now, because some of those, I don't think we were working on the older model, but moving forward for sure, we will hold off any disciplinary action until it's been thoroughly reviewed by the different committees.
So can I just clarify, Aaron? So
Yes.
us moving this forward to HSC means that we are all in agreement that your investigation was extremely thorough and done properly, and that we are all in agreement that the complaint is unfounded and the officer should be exonerated. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, that's my take on this. Now, that's how it would have been with CPAC. They had voted in each session how they wanted to vote on each rule. If they actually did each rule independently and voted, and if they agreed or disagreed. So if you guys, and I think Kimberly said you guys aren't actually doing the rule violations, you're just looking at the actual investigation to see if it was thorough and fair. But it's my take that if you guys agree, then it goes forward to HSC, then you guys have signed off on it.
And just to be clear, if you all go through this process and you say, well, I don't think this was considered as part of the deliberative process of investigation, then it can't go forward until you all have said everything on here is in line with moving towards whatever decision that's being disposed of. So I just want to be clear, we're not asking you to rule on the rules itself, just because from the feedback from some of the members, it was, it's even though you're seeing, I'm going to be clear, you're seeing way more than the previous group ever saw. They never saw a full report. They never, I mean, they did review video from time to time. All they received was the summary, and that was it. So with you all having more access to information, it gives us, in thorough investigation, it will then make OPS to go back and say, we need to look at it more thoroughly to ensure that we are covering other issues that was arised by this group.
I have a question following on to that. So if we look at something and see and come to the consensus that, it was thoroughly investigated, but we disagree with the findings and recommendation, is that something that we can voice in this committee? And because from what you explained previously, Kimberly, it sounds like we can only talk about the whether the investigation was proper and thorough, and our opinions on the finding and recommendations aren't really going to be considered. So I just want to get clarity on that, whether we should also be.
Sure. So let's say that's the scenario, that you can say, you know what, everything that was submitted to us looked like everyone did their responsible job, and we don't find anything wrong with the process. However, we disagree with the decision. I mean, that could be a recommendation to the chief, because the chief at the end of the day is the arbiter of that decision. It's not HSC, right? So HSC does not have the authority to discipline. It is through the chief. And so if there's concerns that arise, definitely you are able to voice that. It's just you're not voting on that per se.
Okay, so that can be part of our report, but that's not what HAC is going to be considering, but it can be included in the report for what's going back down
Correct.
to the chief for his final determination. Okay.
Yeah, and here's the thing, and the chief is going to take that into consideration, 9 out of 10. So, and we can, and I don't want to hamstring this committee either. So if we see things that are not working, or we see things that could be done better, I think we need to discuss and address, because the chief has definitely said, like, he wants this committee to be effective. And so as we're starting this off, I know it's going to be a little bit touch and go with how things are going to flow until we have a rhythm. So please feel free if you have any recommendations. And if need be, we can even invite the chief to a meeting if there's some clarification from his standpoint you want to have a discussion with. Aaron, did I speak correctly?
Yes, and I know I spoke to the chief earlier. He's was unable to make it today. He was planning on it, but wasn't able to make it. So I imagine he'll, and I can ask him to be at the next meeting if everybody wants him there.
Thank you. All right, with that being said, I'll hand it back over to you, Chair.
All right, thank you. So having moved Department Inquiry number 2001 to HSC, we have before us now Department Inquiry number 2003, dated April 29th, 2020. So if I can have a motion for discussion.
Move to discuss DI 2003.
Second the
Can I
motion.
have a second?
Yeah, I second.
Can we vote? Okay, can we have a vote on the motion to discuss? Say aye if you agree.
Aye.
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 Nay if you have any opposition. Having heard no opposition, we have before us again Department Inquiry number 2003 up for discussion. So, Officer Wernick.
Sure. So we received this complaint. The complainant stated that his door was damaged and officers tried breaking into his condo and crossed the threshold without a warrant. In reviewing this, he also felt that he was being harassed. In reviewing this, the possible violations were Rule 1, 2, 18, and 20. So there was a noise complaint. This is an ongoing issue between some neighbors. A neighbor had called. It was, I believe, the second day in a row that officer had gone out. The officers got to the complainant's door and could hear the TV very loud, knocked, and there was no answer. They began banging on the door very hard, I believe kicking it at one point, at which point the complainant opened the door, asked them what was going on, what they were doing, and accused them of breaking into his home. The accused officer denied the allegation, requested to speak with him, at which point there really wasn't going to be a conversation. They advised him if it keeps up, there's going to be a citation written. There was some things said about an earlier incident with some plainclothes officers showing up. If you guys read through the investigation, you would be able to decipher through that stuff, where I think there was confusion between what was going on with this. And he stated that some damage happened to the door back in November of 2019, which was not a police issue. The police were not there then. So it was reviewed. The video was reviewed. The OPS investigator had sent out an evidence technician to photograph the damage to the door, or the alleged damage to the door. I do have those photographs if you'd like to see them in executive session. They're just of the door jamb and just kind of the area around the door.
Was it an actual damage, or from what I read in the report, it was more kind of a loose?
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, based on the investigation, I think it's hard to say that the officer caused the damage. We're talking a vintage door and probably like a 1920s building. So, I mean, you know, having lived in one of those before, you kind of know that the door's loose after time. I don't know what it was like prior to the officers knocking, though, because I wasn't there. So him making that accusation, obviously we're going to investigate it, and that's why the evidence technician was sent out to document with photographs. But it's not like the door was broken down and was unable to shut, where you could just force it open once the officer had knocked on it. And then going through, the patrol sergeant unfounded that the officer had crossed the threshold, and exonerated that he prevented him from closing the door. He did state, he advised the accused officer of possible options that could have been used to resolve the incident. The patrol commander concurred. And they I guess did some teaching points. There's what essentially it was basically a counseling session with the officer, and the deputy chief agreed, and there was no further action taken.
So I guess the question I have is, can an officer do that and just stop someone from closing the door?
I mean, it depends on the totality of the circumstances. He didn't enter the apartment. If you watch the video, I mean, he put his foot in the threshold of the door. I think you would have to watch the video to see how the complainant answered the door. And it would really, I mean, I can't really answer to, I think if you watch the video on this one, you would see, based on what they were investigating, it's kind of hard to tell what was going on in the apartment. And really what they're doing is just trying, Yes, they can. Based on this circumstance, what they did was not illegal. They didn't technically enter the apartment, and they stopped him from closing the door because they're addressing something. And once they figured out what was going on, they were done. So yes, you can up to a certain point. They did not make entry into the apartment, which he accused, and he also accused them of being there previously and doing that, which through the OPS investigation found that to not be the case. We had nothing on record regarding call for service or any officers being over there.
Thank you.
So it's under the officer's discretion to take an action such as the one that was taken in this case. Like you said, depending on the totality of the circumstances.
Correct. I mean, and once you realize what's going on, and I think that happened here, you have to stop. And I think that happened in reviewing it. You know, they didn't come into the apartment. He just stopped him from closing the door. Could he have just stepped back and left the ticket there? Yes, that would have possibly been preferable, as he was coached and counseled on, but I wasn't there. All I'm looking at is video, as you guys are looking at the investigation and video as well. But yeah, I mean, if you get called to a residence and there's commotion going on inside and a neighbor's calling and you don't know what's going on, you do have to, it's essentially is a well-being check. So you're allowed to, up to a certain point, do what he did. Now, I believe he retreated pretty quickly on it. And like I said, watching the video would give you a different viewpoint of this. So that's up to you guys if you want to see that. But, you know, if he didn't answer the door, nobody was going to try to force it open, anything like that. So, but if you watch the video, I think it would speak volumes as to what was happening.
Can we watch the video of that one?
Yeah, we would have to go into executive session.
Yeah. So we have at least one person. I myself want to see the video as well. Is there anyone else that?
I second that.
Okay. So Kimberly, at this point, would you recommend that we move? Well, I know we're going to hold executive session till the end, but at that point, then we'll move to go into executive session. Okay.
So we wouldn't take any action on this. I would just go ahead and just leave this as a discussion. And then when we come back out of exec session, you can take action.
Okay, sounds good. Is there anyone else that had any questions or anything about this, or are we all waiting to kind of just see the video?
Yeah, I'd like to see the video.
Okay. So if we can just put a pause on discussion for DI number 2003 until after review of the video. Okay.
Now, I don't want to get, I know, kind of caught up in all the processes here. So if we go to executive session and we look at the video and then we make a determination as a commission. Now we're supposed to do this in a public forum, right? So.
Right. So the video, so because we are dealing with a personnel issue, and you will be, and I will have the language for Janita to read or someone to read into exec session, so you can convene an exec session. So in exec session, because this is police officers are still personnel, and so they are, as any personnel, when you're talking about disciplinary actions, which is what is being discussed, they have the right to have that be not in public forum. And so you will review all the evidence that has been collected by the OPS, and now include the video. You may discuss, you cannot take action. So you can concur and say, okay, this is fine, we're done. And you can take action outside the meeting, but you cannot take any formal action within the meeting itself. It is separately recorded because by state statute, we have to have that a separate verbatim recording. But the minutes that will be developed from the exec session will just be summary minutes because that just needs to be the record and not the verbatim discussion. So with that being said, you can have a discussion in exec session. However, you can't take any action within the exec session.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are putting a halt on DI 2003. Let us continue on the agenda. We do have an additional department inquiry number 2006, dated April 10th, 2020. If I can have a motion for discussion.
Motion to discuss DI 20-06.
If I can have a second.
A second.
All in agreement, say aye.
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 If there's any opposition, say nay. Having heard no opposition for discussion for department inquiry number 2006, we can begin discussion. We can start with you, Officer Warnick.
Sure. So this complaint was handled all in patrol. The first time OPS heard about it was once it came up to us through the chain of command. So essentially, an officer was driving down, saw a vehicle in the 1700 block of Sherman in a handicap spot, stopped to write it a ticket. The complainant believed that he was legally parked, felt that he was being profiled based on out-of-state plates and his name, which was attached to the registration. The patrol sergeant came down to the scene, confirmed that it was not a legal parking spot. There was a dispute to the street, the actual markings. The sergeant advised the complainant that he could take pictures of it, and maybe that would assist him in his defense. At some point, a Northwestern University officer showed up and also agreed that it was a handicapped parking spot. The sergeant felt that it was exonerated, that there was really, as far as the accusations go, there was really no policy or rule violation. And the commander and deputy chief concurred with that. And they did not list rule violations. Let me just double check that to make sure that, I don't believe that the patrol sergeant listed rule violations.
But in essence, he didn't have a handicap placard. He was parked in a handicapped spot. I mean,
And he wasn't handicapped.
So for all intents and purposes, he did not appear to be.
Nor
but
did
he
he claim to be, right, Aaron?
I believe during the video, he did say that he is handicapped. However, I don't know if it was in the memorandum, if the sergeant stated that or not. But regardless of it, he didn't have the proper documentation either on his vehicle or placard. And as far as I know, it's a universal symbol for handicap parking nationwide.
Do we have any further discussion on this matter? I know that there was one portion in it where he said that the university sign was hard to see that was marked on the street, but it was at least partly there. from what I read.
And that the sign was also posted
So-
in front. So it wasn't just the markings on the street, there was also the sign up above. So it would have been double marked.
Okay. And as far as I know, there's no certain time limit, and within, I guess it just has to be a reasonable time within in which to write a ticket. Correct? I know it says here 10 minutes, and so part of his complaint was that it was, there was a delayed time in actually writing the ticket, but it was never that the officer left and then mailed him out a ticket later, or left the scene before actually writing the ticket. Is that correct?
Correct. And as far as the time, I don't think that it was ever documented from the officer how long he was on scene. And part of what he might have been doing was to see if the person would see his squad car. A lot of times, I mean, I know I've done that in the past. You just pull up and you see somebody and maybe they run out and move the car. So maybe he was giving them time. I don't know. I can't speak to what the officer did or how long he was actually out there. But he did not leave and come back. He stayed there, cited the complainant, and left.
My only question, not having seen the video myself, or knowing the lapse of time between the officer actually seeing the vehicle parked in the wrong place and then the complainant coming out to kind of claim that vehicle as being his. I can see where the complainant will make that accusation that it was racially based if the officer didn't write a ticket sort of immediately and then waited till he actually saw who owned the vehicle, and then placed the ticket, as opposed to like, I would have given anyone a ticket. It wouldn't matter if you would have come out or anything like that.
This is just a judgment, on my call. I can see when you park someplace for a short period of time to go into a store or whatever the case may be. But when you do park in a handicapped spot, I just see that as being just a little bit more problematic in a handicapped spot versus a spot where maybe you didn't put money in the, in the machine or use your credit card, whatever the case may be. But when you park in a handicapped spot, I know this is judgment on my part. I have a little bit less patience for something like that.
And that's completely understood for me. Like if you park there and you don't have the proper documentation to park there, then that ticket is valid. My only question is that if an officer saw a car parked there and he was going to write a ticket, why not start the process of writing the ticket right away instead of waiting for the owner of the vehicle to present themselves before writing the ticket? Like, it wouldn't matter who the owner was or anything like that. I would just want to make sure that you're writing that ticket regardless.
And he did write it prior to the subject coming out. He didn't see who owned the vehicle.
Okay.
Right.
So
the allegation is that he made the racial profile from a name, correct? So
yes.
not visual observance of the driver.
Mm-hmm.
The allegation is that he looked at the driver's or the name on the registration, which didn't necessarily have anything to do with the driver of the vehicle, and
Correct.
made a racially profiled decision to ticket someone for being in a handicapped spot without a handicap placard or a handicap plate, which, if I'm not mistaken, Illinois does not have reciprocity for handicap placards hanging from rearview mirrors, so it would have to be a handicap plate. But none of that occurred, so the allegation is just that he racially profiled this individual by his first or last name, or the registered owner of the vehicle by first or last name, not the person driving the vehicle, who could have been a completely different person.
Do we have any further discussion on this department inquiry? Would anyone like to see the video on this inquiry? No?
Necessary for
Okay.
me.
So having had discussion on this, does anyone feel like the process was unfair or not accurate? I can't see everybody, so let me scroll through. No? Okay.
I do not. I don't believe it was unfair or inaccurate.
Okay. So having discussed the department inquiry number 2006 and having seen, determined that the process seems to be accurate and for this situation, can we have a motion to recommend this to HSC?
I'd like, oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Nika.
I make a motion to move DI 20-06 over to HSC.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, and we have a vote on the motion. All that's in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I
Any opposed, say nay. Having no opposition, is this commission's opinion that department inquiry number 2006 should be moved forward and recommended to HSC for further review. Okay. Sorry.
Okay. So if we're next executive session, so how that goes. So moving forward, Janitha, what I will do is I will just add this memo into the packet. So it's just there, even if we don't need to go into exec session. So this statement needs to be motioned by a committee member, and you have to read the motion as written. And then a second, and then what we will do is go into a breakout room where we will discuss this meeting. Those who are in public who are on the call will stay within the current space we're in. Once we're done with the meeting, once we're done with the session and you convene back into the regular meeting, we will then reconvene and continue the public meeting. So this will move us into that breakout session, and then we'll come back into this room after we're done. So the
Okay,
person
would you like for me to read this and ask for a motion?
Correct. You can, no, this is the motion. So this is the motion itself. It's a motion to convene into exec session. So someone will read that statement as written, and I hope you all can see it. I try to enlarge it as best as possible. So whomever other than the chair can read the statement, please.
I can read it. I think I can see it now. Okay. Pursuant to 5 Illinois compiled statutes, ILCS 120-2A, I move that the Citizen Police Review Commission convene into executive session to discuss agenda items regarding personnel and litigation. These agenda items are permitted subjects to be considered in executive session and are enumerated exceptions under the Open Meetings Act. These exceptions are 5 ILCS 120-2A, C1, and C11, and are set forth as follows. Section 2C, exceptions. A public body may hold closed meetings to consider the following subjects. 1, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity.
A second.
second.
Who was that? I'm sorry, I couldn't see.
That was Doug Whitmore, seconded.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll go into exec session. So give me a second. Oh, do we have all in favor? I'm sorry.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All right.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, there's no
All right.
opposition.
Karen will be back, so please be patient with us.
Whatever, I'm here, no worries.
Okay.
This meeting is being recorded.
All right. Everyone is back into the room. There we go. Rick is here and Jamal's back and Nico's back.
So do we just continue discussion?
That is correct. So we're going back to, you can go back to DI 2003 to continue discussion and then next steps.
So focusing back on Department Inquiry number 2003, the commission did go into executive session to review the video. Having reviewed the video, is there any further discussion on Department Inquiry 2003?
No further discussion from my perspective.
Is there any concern about the policies that were taken in this matter?
No concerns.
No concerns from me. It looks like it was thoroughly reviewed.
Okay. All right, so having reviewed Department Inquiry number 2003, as well as reviewing the video in executive session, there's no further concerns or discussion for Department 2003. So can I have a motion to recommend this move to HSC for further review?
I move that DI 20-03 is moved on to HSC for further action.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All approved say nay, say yay. Sorry.
Yay.
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 Yeah.
If there's any opposition, please say nay. Having heard no opposition, this commission recommends that Department Inquiry 2003 moves to HSC for further review. Having reviewed all three department inquiries that were before the commission for new business, and also having moved past executive session, we're moving further down the agenda. We have no old business to discuss at this time. So if there's nothing further to discuss, then I'm sorry.
I do. Sorry, I was trying to motion you so you didn't have to.
Sorry.
That's okay. If I can just have Jamal, Doug, and Nico stay after the meeting with Aaron and I, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Say Nico or Nika?
Nico.
Nico, okay.
I'm getting there, Nika. I know Nika, so I'm better.
All right. Having no further go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just had a quick question. How many cases did you all want for the next meeting?
For me, it seems like 3 is an adequate amount, especially when it comes to discussion. It seems like everyone was able to review all 3 before this meeting and have a intelligible conversation on each. Does anyone feel like we need more or less?
I agree that 3 is a good number for.
I agree.
Yeah, especially
It's a good number.
the matter that we dealt with this time was if they're all similar. Now, we get an extensive one might be appropriate. But right now, I think, yeah, 3, as long as they stay around this kind of complaints, yeah, these are manageable.
Very good. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Having hear none, I ask if someone can move for adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
I second.
All in agreement, say yay.
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 Any in opposition, say nay.
I oppose. I have no vote.
The yays have it. This meeting is-
Congratulations. Congratulations, you guys reviewed
Good job,
your
guys.
first cases. I know that it's a lot of information that you had to look through. So thank you for taking your time and doing that and asking very good questions tonight. So as we can improve upon things, Erin and I are here to support you in doing that. So thank you all again.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Everyone have a good night.
Good night.
Thanks. Take care.
Thank you. All right. So Doug, Nico, where did Nico leave?
You want me to call him?
Could you please have him come back on? I said his name twice. All right, so you 3 did not take part in the use of force training, and the chief really wants to make sure all of you do because of concerns that if the commission has said that this is something they're going to do and not everyone's partaking in it, there might be some issues on the other end of things that he has to deal with in his police department. So,
Well, you know, I've had like 26 years of use of force.
I understand. You know,
Yeah,
I've had 16 years of Open Meetings Act, and I still have to take a darn test every year in a boring training that you all have to listen to. I have to take every year, so I get that and respect that. But we still need, as a group, we're still trying to finalize how we're going to move forward. Oh, he's here. Hold on.
And has anybody done ride-alongs yet? Do we know?
I don't think so. I mean,
Okay.
I think that's hard to do with COVID. I don't know. I just don't know if I really want to do a ride along in COVID world. So, you know, I'm just saying. I don't know what's wrong with Nico's phone. So we need to help him out get better technology here. All right.
You say,
There you go. So speaking of, so it was a 4-hour session that was held. It would just be the 3 of you plus Sergeant Faison and the committee, or excuse me, and the instructor. So you 3 need to come up with a date that works for your schedules because we can't have individual trainings with him. He's not cheap. But I wanted to make sure that you all had an opportunity to sit through this training. So the 3 of you need to identify if it's Saturday works. Give us some dates that work with your schedule, and then we will work with the instructor on trying to accommodate those dates.
Jamal, what's good for you, little brother?
Yeah, probably a Saturday before 4.
Okay. That's fine.
Saturday before 4.
Okay, so it's a 4-hour training. So before 4 means you have to get up on Saturday morning.
All right.
All right, so we will share. We won't make it too early. It will probably be in the same location, which is in the fire administrative building. That's right there off of, is it Lake? Elmwood?
Yeah, Lake Street.
Yeah, Lake Street, Lake and Elmwood. Because it's a very nice room for you all to social distance, and you don't have to like worry about breathing other people's air. We will finalize the schedule, and please make sure you attend. This is a required training. With that being said, I will not continue chastising.
So you're gonna let us know what the date would be?
Correct.
Okay, cool.